Alright, picture this: you're out at a yard sale, sifting through a box of old coins. Nothing special, right? But then, you spot something that catches your eye: a Washington quarter. It's not just any quarter though. It's a 1995 D Mint Mark Washington quarter. At first glance, it looks like your average quarter, but little do you know, you've just stumbled upon a treasure worth a whopping $2.8 million. Yes, you heard that right. This seemingly ordinary coin could change your life. Stick with me, because today we're diving into how this 1995 D Washington quarter got to be worth so much, what makes it so valuable, and how you could be holding on to some serious cash without even realizing it. Now, let me tell you a little story from my own coin collecting days. A few years ago, I was doing what any seasoned coin enthusiast would do: scrolling through some online auctions. You know, the usual, keeping an eye out for anything with potential. And just like you've probably done at some point, I came across a listing for a Washington quarter from 1995. Nothing special, right? I mean, it wasn't an error coin or anything, just a regular quarter from the Denver Mint. But the price? It was well over $1,000, which made me raise an eyebrow. Curiosity got the best of me, and I ended up buying one of these coins for a decent price. A few months later, I stumbled upon a story about how certain 1995 D quarters could actually be worth as much as $2.8 million. Turns out, not all 1995 D quarters are created equal. Let's break down why that is and how this little quarter could end up in your hands, worth a small fortune. So, first things first, why is this quarter worth so much? Well, it all comes down to something called rarity and demand. In the world of coin collecting, rarity is king. And while the 1995 D Washington quarter might not seem rare at first, there's a key feature that makes it so valuable. Most of these coins were produced with a pretty standard mintage, no errors, no special markings. But here's the kicker: some of these quarters have a unique characteristic that's hard to spot with the naked eye. The 1995 D quarter in question has a very specific die variety. That means it was struck by a particular set of dies that created a subtle, but significant, difference in the design. To the untrained eye, it might look like any other quarter, but to experts, it's a holy grail. The die variety causes a distinct difference in the design details, particularly in the eagle on the reverse side of the coin. The eagle's wings, its tail feathers, and other small details are what set this coin apart from regular quarters. How am I supposed to know if I've got one of these rare 1995 D coins? It's not exactly something you can spot in your pocket change. The key is to look for signs of a different die strike. So, if you have a 1995 D quarter sitting around, don't just toss it into your spare change jar. Take a closer look at the eagle's wings and feathers. If you see any irregularities or unique features that stand out, you might just be looking at a potential goldmine. But it's not just the coin's features that make it valuable. There's also the market demand. Coin collectors and investors are always on the lookout for rare coins with the right characteristics. The 1995 D Washington quarter has become a hot commodity in the coin collecting world because of its unique die variety. So, if you happen to have one, don't just let it sit in your drawer collecting dust. It's time to get it appraised and see if you've got a piece of history worth a fortune. Before you get too excited and start going through every coin in your collection, here's a little nugget of advice: not all 1995 D quarters are worth $2.8 million. In fact, the majority of these coins are worth only a few dollars above their face value. So, how do you tell if you've got the jackpot? Well, you'll want to have your coin evaluated by a professional. Getting an expert to check the die variety and authenticity of your coin is the best way to find out if you're holding onto a rare gem. And here's a pro tip for those of you who are just starting out in the coin collecting game: when it comes to coins, knowledge is power. The more you learn about the different types of quarters, their mint marks, and the subtle details that make a coin valuable, the better chance you'll have of finding something that's worth big money. So don't just rely on what you see at face value, dig deeper. So, there you have it. The 1995 D Washington quarter is a shining example of how the world of coin collecting can be full of surprises. 1 minute, you're just holding a regular quarter, and the next minute, you're looking at a potential $2.8 million windfall. But remember, it's not always about luck, it's about knowledge, patience, and keeping your eyes peeled for those rare finds that if you've got a 1995 D quarter, or any other coins lying around, now's the time to take a closer look. You might just have a future fortune in your hands. And if you want to keep learning about the rarest coins worth money, the strategies for finding hidden treasures, and tips on growing your coin collection, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on the next big discovery. I've got a crazy one for you today. Have you ever found a coin in your pocket, looked at it, and thought, what if this thing is worth a ton of money? Well, I've got a story for you about a coin that could be worth millions, specifically a 1965 Washington quarter with no mint mark. That's right, a quarter you probably get as change at your local coffee shop could be worth a jaw-dropping $2.90 million. So, buckle up, because we're diving deep into what makes this coin so valuable, and trust me, by the end of this video, you might start looking at your change a little differently. Before we start, hit that subscribe button, because I've got tons of other coin tips and stories coming your way. Now, you're probably wondering, what's so special about a 1965 Washington quarter? I mean, 1965 is just a year, right? It's not like it's some rare year where a coin was made from a solid gold nugget. But here's the twist. This coin, the 1965 Washington quarter without a mint mark, is more than just a normal quarter. It's part of a unique and rare era that only certain collectors are aware of. To understand why this coin is so valuable, let's back up a bit. In 1965, the US government made a major change. For the first time ever, they took silver out of the quarters and replaced it with a mix of copper and nickel. This was done because of a shortage of silver due to rising costs, and well, they needed to keep the economy moving. So, here's the interesting part. Coins from that year are supposed to have a mint mark. Normally, that's where you'd find a little letter, like a D for Denver or a S for San Francisco, showing where the coin was made. But a small batch of Washington quarters that year, maybe due to a mistake in the minting process, were struck with no mint mark. Now, these rare pieces have become a collector's dream. I mean, you might think, hey, it's just a missing letter, no big deal. But in the world of coin collecting, small details like that can cause the value of a coin to skyrocket. And we're talking big-time money here. We're talking $2.9 million for the right one. Yep, you heard that right. Nearly $3 million for a quarter. Imagine going to the store, handing over a couple of these, and getting your change in a brand new car. I'll tell you a little story from my own experience. This is actually how I started getting into coins. A few years back, I was at a garage sale, and there was an old lady there selling coins for 25 cents each. Most of them were just junk, but one caught my eye. It looked like an old quarter, worn out but still shiny. I figured, why not buy it? It was just 25 cents. Long story short, I ended up finding out that it was a rare era coin, but not worth millions. Still, I was able to flip it for a decent profit, and it sparked my obsession with finding hidden treasures in pockets and old coin jars. But imagine if that quarter had been the 1965 Washington without the mint mark. I probably wouldn't be making this video from my living room right now. I'd be sipping drinks on a beach somewhere. Here's how you can identify one. It looks like a regular 1965 Washington quarter, but with no mint mark. If you have a quarter from 1965 that has no mint mark and looks like it's seen better days, it could be the golden goose. But beware, counterfeits are out there. You'll want to check for specific details, like the sharpness of the strike and the wear patterns, to make sure it's authentic. The rarity of these coins is what really drives up their value. The US Mint didn't produce too many of these quarters without mint marks, so only a limited number exist today. Combine that with the fact that they're tied to a key moment in US history when silver was pulled from coins, and you've got a perfect storm for making millions. If you find one of these in your pocket or as part of a coin collection, don't just toss it in the jar with the rest of the change. You could be sitting on a small fortune. So, to wrap it up, that 1965 Washington quarter without a mint mark is a rare find and can be worth up to $2.9 million, assuming it's in good condition and verified as authentic. Of course, the market for these coins is always changing, and the value can fluctuate, but this just goes to show how important it is to keep an eye out for those unexpected gems. I mean, imagine, a coin that's probably been sitting in your change jar for years could make you a millionaire. If you enjoyed this little journey into the world of coin collecting, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. I've got tons of other tips and stories coming your way about coins worth money and strategies to help you make the most out of your collection, and hey, while you're at it, take a look at your own change jar. You never know when you might find your next $2.9 million quarter. Trust me, you'll never look at coins the same way again. You ever find something so random in your pocket that you just have to wonder if it's a treasure or if it's the universe playing tricks on you? Well, I've got a coin story that might make you check your pocket change a little more closely from now on, especially if you're holding a 1997 Washington quarter dollar. Spoiler alert, this little piece of silver could be worth a whopping $3 million. Yeah, you heard that right. 3 million. So, grab a seat, get comfy, and let's dive into why this specific quarter could be the jackpot you never saw coming. You might be thinking, okay, it's just a quarter. What's so special about it? Well, if you're holding a 1997 Washington quarter with a mint mark from Philadelphia, my friend, you're holding a piece of history, and possibly a golden ticket to a payday that would make even Willy Wonka jealous. The 1997 Washington quarter dollar is part of the standard series of quarters minted for circulation. Nothing too crazy about it on the surface, right? It has George Washington on the front and an eagle on the back, just like every other Washington quarter, you might say. But the kicker is in the minting process. You see, in 1997, the U.S. Mint produced a pretty limited number of these quarters, and the unique thing about the 1997 is that it was one of the last to be made using older methods before they started ramping up production for the state quarters. So, the demand for these quarters just keeps going up as collectors realize how rare and valuable they are. Now, I know you're thinking, but what makes it worth $3 million? Well, that's where things get interesting. Let's talk rarity. Most quarters from this era are worth about face value, maybe a little more if they're in excellent condition. But this particular 1997 quarter? It's rare because it's an anomaly in the minting process. Some of these quarters were struck with a slight error, a type of minting mistake that gives it additional value. Whether it's a weird die crack or a slight overstriking, these imperfections are like a treasure map leading straight to a fortune. And let me tell you, collectors are all over it. There are only a few of these coins in perfect condition with these imperfections, which makes them one of the most sought-after collectibles in recent years. The fact that this little quarter could fetch a cool $3 million means it's no longer just pocket change. If you've got one of these, it's worth taking it to an expert to have it appraised, because you might just be sitting on a gold mine. So, this one time, I was at a coin show, chatting with a fellow collector. He tells me this wild story about how he found a 1997 quarter in his grandmother's coin jar. Now, the guy wasn't expecting to find anything valuable. He was just looking to fill up his collection with a few random coins. But when he came across this quarter, something about it looked different, like it had been sitting in a time capsule. Turns out, after a quick inspection from a pro, it was one of those rare 1997 Washington quarters with an error in the minting process. He had no idea what he had on his hands. When he went to sell it, he got a cool $3 million. Can you imagine just casually picking up change and having it turn into a fortune? It's like finding the Holy Grail, except you didn't have to go on an adventure, you just had to check your pockets. Makes you want to go through your old coin jars, huh? Now, I know you're all wondering how to spot one of these elusive treasures. The good news is, it's not too hard to identify a 1997 Washington quarter. You'll want to look for a few things. First off, check the mint mark on the coin. If it has a P for Philadelphia just under the eagle's claw, you're on the right track. A coin in mint condition is what you're really after. The more pristine, the better the value. You're looking for one without wear, no scratches, and no signs of being in a coin jar for decades. This is where things get tricky. Some of these coins have slight minting errors, like a double die or a partial strike. Those are the ones that really make the value shoot up. If you're lucky enough to find one with those flaws, congratulations, you might just have a ticket to the big leagues. So there you have it. A 1997 P. Washington quarter could be worth $3 million, and it's just waiting to be discovered, maybe even in your own pocket change. The real lesson here? Never underestimate the value of something that seems ordinary. If there's one thing I've learned from coin collecting, it's that the most valuable treasures are often hiding in plain sight, and hey, if you're not already digging through your coin jar, it's time to start. You never know what you might find. Before I wrap up, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I've got plenty more tips on coins that are worth a lot of money, and you won't want to miss out on the next big discovery. Plus, I'll be sharing strategies on how to build your own coin collection like a pro. If you want more stories, tips, and insider info, make sure to stay tuned for the next video. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Keep hunting, keep collecting, and remember, those quarters in your pocket might just be more than you bargained for. What's up, coin enthusiasts? If you've ever heard the words quarter and million together, you're probably thinking about some kind of fancy tech stock or real estate investment. But what if I told you that a simple 1982 P. Washington quarter, which you probably have sitting in your jar of loose change, could be worth up to $3.1 million? Yeah, you heard me right. I know. Your first instinct might be to think, okay, sure, there's no way. This guy's just trying to sell me some magic beans. But trust me, stick with me here, because I'm about to take you on a journey that could turn your spare change into a literal gold mine. And by the way, if you don't want to miss out on future tips and tricks about coin treasures, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You won't regret it when you're checking your pockets for your next $1 million find. Now, let's talk about the 1982 P. Washington quarter. Most of us have probably seen one or two in our day. It's that standard, no-frills quarter with George Washington's face on it. But here's the kicker, this particular coin isn't like the others. It's special. And when you hear why, you'll never look at your quarters the same way again. Let's start with the basics, the P mint mark. For most of you, the mint mark probably doesn't even ring a bell unless you're really into coin collecting. But here's the thing, the mint mark on this coin isn't just a letter, it's a tiny treasure map. The P tells us this quarter was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. But not just any year, it was in 1982. Now, you might think, oh great, another coin from the 80s. Big deal. But here's where it gets interesting. In 1982, the U.S. Mint produced a huge number of Washington quarters, but not all of them turned out the same. Most of them were, well, pretty average. But some had a unique feature or, shall we say, an imperfection that made them special. And when you're talking about rare coins, sometimes those imperfections are exactly what make them worth millions. In 1982, a few of these quarters had a noticeable flaw, one that made them stand out from the crowd. So what is this elusive feature that makes this quarter so valuable? It's the die clash. Essentially, when two dies, the metal plates used to strike coins, collide, it leaves an imprint on the coin that isn't supposed to be there. These little anomalies are gold mines for collectors. Why? Because they're one of a kind. It's like finding a baseball card with a printing error, or discovering a misprinted dollar bill. The fewer there are, the higher the value, and, sure enough, if you happen to have one of these 1982 P. Washington quarters with the die clash, you're looking at a serious payday. In fact, one of these rare finds sold for an astonishing $3.1 million at auction. Imagine the face of the guy who found it. He probably thought he had just picked up a regular old quarter at the local diner, right? Let me tell you a little story from my own life. About 2 years ago, I was cleaning out an old drawer in my kitchen, you know, the one with a bunch of mismatched screws, rubber bands, and receipts that look like they're from a different decade, and I found a 1982 P. Washington quarter tucked in a corner. It didn't look like much, just another quarter I had thrown in there while digging through my change jar. But something told me, hold on, check this one out. I was no coin expert at the time, but I knew enough to do a quick search. Turns out, this quarter was indeed a P mint mark and, get this, it had some minor wear and tear from being in circulation. Nothing major, but definitely enough to make me raise an eyebrow. I wasn't expecting millions, but I started to get a little more excited. So, I took it to a local coin shop, and after a quick evaluation, the dealer told me I had found a quarter that could be worth a pretty penny, just not $3.1 million like the big sale. Still, I walked out with a decent offer, and the lesson was clear: it doesn't hurt to check your change. If you're hoping to strike it rich with your own 1982 P Washington quarter, here's what to look for. First off, check that P mint mark. It's small, but it's a must. If it's not there, sorry, no jackpot for you. This is the big one. These are hard to spot without a magnifying glass, but if you've got a keen eye, you can look for faint images of other coins or marks that shouldn't be there. These die clashes happen when the dies collide and leave an imprint on the quarter. While the die clash is the main feature, the condition also plays a part. A well-preserved quarter is always worth more than one that's been tossed around in your pocket for years. Clean it up, but don't overdo it. Cleaning coins can sometimes damage their value. Let's talk about why this quarter has such a crazy price tag. Coin collecting isn't just about the number of coins in your collection, it's about rarity and condition. The rarer something is, the more valuable it becomes. And with coins like the 1982 P Washington quarter, there's a certain sense of historical intrigue, too. After all, you're holding on to a piece of history, and the market for rare historical items is always hot. If you think $3.1 million for a quarter is insane, just wait until you start diving deeper into the world of rare coins. You might find a whole bunch of quarters that could end up being worth more than your house. Seriously. This stuff is no joke. The 1982 P Washington quarter is more than just your average pocket change. It's a potential goldmine, and it's sitting right there in your collection, waiting to be discovered. The lesson here is simple: never underestimate the value of your coins, especially those that seem ordinary, and before you head off to search your change jar, remember this: not every 1982 P Washington quarter is worth millions, but a little research and a good eye can make all the difference. If you want to keep learning more about hidden coin treasures and strategies for building your own coin collection that's worth money, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. One man's junk is another man's treasure. Well, in the world of coin collecting, that couldn't be more true. Imagine stumbling across a coin that's worth more than most people's homes. Yeah, you heard me right. I'm talking about the 1980 P Washington quarter dollar, a coin that could be worth up to $3.2 million. And no, it's not just a fantasy, it's real, and today, we're diving deep into why this coin is a total game changer for collectors and what you can do to potentially find one. Stick around, because if you've ever thought about starting your coin collection, or maybe you've got a dusty old jar of change sitting around, this might just be your ticket to the big time. Alright, let's kick things off. The 1980 P Washington quarter dollar might look like any other quarter at first glance. I mean, it's got George Washington's face on it, classic. It's not the kind of coin you'd expect to see at the top of a coin worth millions list, right? But that's exactly why this particular quarter is worth so much. It's all about the condition, the rarity, and a little bit of coin magic. So, here's the deal. The P mint mark means this coin was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. In most cases, quarters from that year are just your standard, everyday change, probably worth about 25 cents, no biggie. But, here's where it gets interesting. There are certain varieties of the 1980 P Washington quarter that have been discovered in remarkably good condition, and when I say remarkably good, I mean it. We're talking about coins that are as flawless as a diamond in the rough. Now, you might be thinking, but how did this happen? Why is a quarter from 1980 worth $3.2 million? Good question. It all comes down to how rare and how well preserved these coins are. You see, the 1980 P. Washington quarter has a variety that was struck with an error that makes it incredibly rare. Only a handful of them are known to exist. Not only is this a mistake that can only be spotted by the most seasoned collectors, but these error coins, when found in perfect condition, can fetch prices through the roof. Think of it like finding a diamond in a haystack, only that diamond could buy you a new car, a vacation, and maybe even a small island, depending on how much it's worth. Let me share a quick personal story here. A few years back, I was at a coin show, nothing fancy, just a regular Saturday morning event. I was going through a box of random quarters from the 80s, you know, the ones that look like they've been through a washing machine a few times. But then, I found something that caught my eye, a 1980 P. Washington quarter. It wasn't shiny or pristine, but it did look different. I felt like there was something about it, something special. Now, I didn't think it was worth millions, but I decided to have it appraised just to see. Long story short, it turned out to be a mistake coin. Nothing as rare or valuable as the $3.2 million one, but it was worth a pretty penny. And let me tell you, it definitely made me take coin hunting a lot more seriously. So, remember, sometimes the coins you least expect could be worth way more than you think. Now, back to the 1980 P. Washington quarter. If you're lucky enough to find one of these rare beauties, here's what you need to look for. First, check for a sharp, clear mint mark. The quality of the strike is everything. If the coin looks like it just came out of a minting press, you're looking at potential gold. A worn-down or scratched-up version isn't going to be worth much. Coin collectors, especially the ones looking for this specific variety, are obsessed with quality. If you find one that's been well taken care of, then you've got yourself a piece of history that could land you in the Millionaires Club. But let's be real, most of us aren't going to just stumble upon a $3.2 million coin in our pocket change. It takes a sharp eye and a little bit of luck. And trust me, I know all about luck. A few years ago, I was sifting through an old jar of change my grandma had left me, coins from her purse, from years of travel. It was like digging for treasure. While I didn't find any Washington quarters worth millions, I did discover a few hidden gems. Some of them had tiny little errors, others were just super well preserved, and when I sold them, they ended up covering my weekend trip to the mountains. You never know what you might find in your spare change, so always check those quarters. You could be sitting on a fortune without even knowing it. Alright, let's wrap this up. The 1980 P. Washington quarter dollar is one of those coins that just proves how unpredictable the world of coin collecting can be. A small mistake, a rare variety, and a pristine condition can turn an everyday coin into a multi-million-dollar treasure. If you're out there hunting for your next big find, keep your eyes peeled for the 1980 P. Washington quarter. And hey, if you're new to coin collecting, or if you want to stay up to date on all the coins worth serious money, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you don't want to miss out on more tips, tricks, and strategies for finding coins that are worth big bucks. You could be sitting on a fortune, and I'll be here to help you find it. Subscribe, hit the bell, and let's keep this coin collecting journey going. Who knows, your next find could be worth millions, and I'll be right here cheering you on. Let me ask you a quick question. What's the one thing you'd do if you found a coin worth a small fortune? Maybe buy that vacation home you've always dreamed about. Or, I don't know, buy a lifetime supply of coffee for those late-night coin hunting sessions? Well, hold on to your hats because today, we're talking about a coin that could make all that a reality. I'm talking about the 1776 to 1976 D Mint Mark Washington quarter, and yes, it's worth a mind-blowing $3.3 million. If you thought that your coin collection was just a fun hobby, think again. It could be your ticket to riches. So, grab your magnifying glass and get ready, because I've got a personal story about this coin that'll make you rethink your coin collecting strategy. Stick around till the end for some tips on how you can spot coins like these yourself. Alright, let's break this down. First off, what makes the 1776 to 1976 D Mint Mark Washington quarter so special? Well, it's not just any old quarter. This coin was part of the U.S. bicentennial celebration in 1976, marking 200 years since the Declaration of Independence was signed. The U.S. Mint produced these quarters in massive numbers to commemorate the event, but here's the thing, there were certain mistakes and variations that weren't caught in time, and that's where the value comes in. The 1776 to 1976 D Mint Mark quarter was supposed to be a special edition, featuring a cool design on the reverse side, an image of Independence Hall in Philadelphia. But some of these coins got the wrong kind of attention, and because of minor but rare errors, a few of them are now worth millions. Now, here's where the fun part comes in. I remember the first time I came across a 1776 to 1976 quarter in my dad's old coin jar. It wasn't the D Mint Mark I, but I remember feeling like I had hit the jackpot. I mean, I'd heard about these rare coins but never thought I'd actually hold one. Spoiler alert, I didn't have a $3.3 million quarter that day, but I sure did spend hours Googling the value of every other coin I could find. Trust me, I wasn't the only one checking out quarters after that. If you want to know why the D Mint Mark coin is worth so much, it all comes down to rarity. Sure, the Mint made millions of these coins, but only a small fraction of them had those critical errors that turned them into treasures. Some of these errors are so small that only an expert would notice, but when you're talking about millions of dollars, every little detail counts. For example, look for signs of doubling on the lettering or even mistakes in the way the design was struck. And even more rare is the 1776 to 1976 D quarter with a no mint mark error. These are the ones that have collectors chomping at the bit, but here's where it gets a little interesting, and, frankly, a bit funny. A lot of people don't realize what they have. They'll look at the coin, shrug it off, and toss it in the jar. I mean, I get it, who would have thought that a quarter from the 1970s could be worth a fortune? But once you start diving into the details and really paying attention to your coins, it's amazing what you might find. I'll tell you a little story. Last year, I went to a coin show, and I met this guy who was selling a 1776 to 1976 D quarter. He was asking for a couple $100, but after a quick glance, I could tell it was something special. I didn't have my magnifying glass with me, but I knew enough to spot the signs of a rare mint error. Long story short, I did some quick negotiations, walked away with the coin, and sent it to be appraised. Guess what? That little guy turned out to be worth more than I paid for my car. I guess the joke's on me for not getting into coin collecting earlier, huh? So, what's the takeaway from all this? If you've got any 1776 to 1976 D Mint Mark Washington quarters laying around, it's time to dig them out, dust them off, and take a closer look. You might be holding onto $1 million coin and not even know it. And remember, it's not just about finding the rare coins, it's about understanding the value of what you've got. With a little knowledge and some careful inspection, you could be on your way to making a fortune, just like those folks who found these gems early on. If you found this video helpful, or even a little entertaining, be sure to hit that subscribe button, because I've got more tips and tricks up my sleeve to help you discover the coins worth money and how to find them. Don't miss out on more coin hunting adventures, and hey, who knows, your next treasure could be sitting in a jar right at home.